everyone, and welcome to the Afghanistan Project podcast. I'm your host, Beth Bailey, and I am so excited today to welcome Sarina Faizy. Sarina began her career as a media relations officer for ISAF and NATO in Kandahar Province in 2011, and eventually she was elected to the Kandahar Provincial Council, where she held a position between 2014 and 2019. Obviously, in between that, she did many other really impressive things, but to list them all it would take quite some time. Sarina also helped to process Afghans into the country in September of 2021 and was recently a senior operations associate at Chemonics, working on support to their Special Immigrant Visa Unit. Sarina has her bachelor's from Malala University and her master's in international law from my alma mater, where I just have an undergrad degree, the College of William and Mary. And we know mutual people there, which is really cool. And those mutual people, if they're listening, know who they are. So I'm not going to name them. But Sarina, it's such a sincere pleasure to have you here with me today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Pat, for having me in your podcast. I'm so excited and glad to be here with you.
It's just such an honor. Well, to start with, I feel like I would love to know what it was like to grow up in Kandahar, such a rural area where attitudes toward women, can definitely be rough. I've had Peshtana Durrani come on and talk about all the work that she's done, to elevate education for girls in Kandahar. And so, what was it like for you growing up in Kandahar?
I think, it's sometimes we hear like Kandahar and we just, think of everybody have a different image of Afghanistan and specifically the areas like Kandahar, Helmand, and other areas. How I grew up was like, I would say sometimes I think back and I'm like, did I really survive that everything that I have been through? Like, that everything sticks with you for the rest of your lives. It's something you can't explain that as a woman because you're always subject to everything and most likely to the negative things, but growing up there makes you also the stronger. That we always say that make your wings as a female so strong that you can fly to any dream that you desire to have. To be honest, growing up there gave me a different kind of energy, ambition, and also the experience that I had there as a holding a key chair in Afghanistan, one of the top female there politically being active there, not covering my face, being able to be an inspiration story for the rest of the girl was not just something for Sarina, it was more of out of it. It was not just me, but it was more of the society, how to present them and the stressful job and work that you do as an Afghan woman and being from the really stricted type Pashtun and working actively in Kandahar wasn't an easy thing, but definitely most of women have done it perfectly.
I just think it's so impressive. I have worked on Taliban issues in the past with, the Taliban who are in control of and from the South. And so I know how aggressively they were present in those areas, and so I can only imagine what that was like and having to fight those feelings and that.
I think too. One of the things that I want to mention, Kandahar used to be called as like the capital of Taliban, which means the impact of Taliban were of course around the globe, but specifically in Afghanistan because they were present back there and now they're present again. But choosing Kandahar as a capital because it's close to Pakistan, a easy transportation for them, I should say, but also it had a huge impact on women, life, on kids' life, gender-wise, on both, youths. We can include like even some young men that had a dream of education and change of their life and more of democracy into their life in a positive way, in a way that they can accomplish their dreams and do something better for their country. It had a really huge impact on Afghan women rights. Even sometime in some of the whenever I get invited to some of the interviews, I say there are two kind of Taliban. One that they carry the gun and you can see them. That this is a Taliban. Their outfit kind of explains the rest of the story. But other kind of Taliban are the people who are mentally that you can't see them. They would be in a really professional, beautiful outfit that you can say this is like wow, so elegant. But mental wise, they are really, still haven't changed, which is way scary than the physical appearance of somebody.
I absolutely agree. And I think that that's really important. And I hear a lot about that too. I'd love to mention here I have a person who has recently told me about all the people here in the States who have that clandestine Taliban mentality and kind of agree with the way that the Taliban are running Afghanistan. And this person said that needs to be called out. And I haven't found an effective way to do that yet, because for me, it's not as visible. I'm not in those circles where I see that. And I think as a Westerner, I kind of have a shield against it to a degree. It's not, my cultural understanding is different, but I think it's really important to bring that out, that it's not just the Taliban that Afghan women are fighting. Sometimes it's and others, not just Afghan women, but it's also that kind of the good face, but yeah, the mindset, absolutely, which is much easier to disguise. Let's talk about working for NATO and ISAF. Did that put you at risk as, how was that? And, did you have to take extra precautions? What was that period of your life like?
Well, I will start with it did not just put me in risk, but the rest of my family, especially, having six siblings and father and dad. It was like a brother, like it was not just my life that was in risk, it was the rest of the family being in risk. Because when you are educated, a woman in Afghanistan, especially being young girl, you are not just subject to those all negative things that that we always hear, but it's also that your family faces certain challenges in the community, because they see you go out, you come in a certain time, so they also, like, if your father is active, and of course they go to the mosque and do pray each Friday, and people are, oh, your daughter goes there and this is a shame for the society, you got to stop. So those kind of thought, not just that my family faces, I think most of the Afghan parents, especially fathers, they're more active in the society. The more active they are, the more challenges they faces. And they, in our defense, whatever they try to, like, to protect the family and himself and us, most of the family choose to, like, silence the girl and keep them in the house, not to allow them, which was the biggest problem during me being in being actively working with ISAF. We can call it NATO Special Forces of USA. I was the first female when I worked with them. They were looking for an individual who can, at least as a female, be present with them to open a door for other females. Sometimes it takes one person to take a course of action, so that it gives the confidence for the rest of the community or family to be able to take the same action, or way better action. So this was what they were looking like. We just need a female to be present with us. It's not about, like, working full-time or part-time or have to be perfect and do all whatever is given to the scope of work, but at least somebody, an Afghan Kandahari woman, who can open the door for the rest of other girls, so then they can believe on us to work with us. Because the work was not with the local people, the local work was straight with being a bridge between the officials in local plus with the NATO. So you were like a bridge between two different cultures, mindsets, and also countries.
That's a huge load to take on, to be bringing that, the target on your family, knowing how important it is, because it was so important to get buy-in and to get representation from women, especially in areas, I imagine, like Kandahar. In Kabul, it would be easier, right? There are already a pool of women to work from, but that takes a lot of courage and strength to do that. And then, you went on and you became an elected official with the provincial council. Tell me about that process. How did you go about getting buy-in from the community and getting elected in the first place?
Well, when while I started working with NATO Special Forces with my, supervisor, they always encouraged me, as I was the first female with them working as Afghan. I was so young when I joined with them, so they were, like, always trying to push for my more education, buying me a books, getting me the knowledge as much as I needed. Because in Afghanistan, we have a pretty weak internet, and most of the time in some areas we don't even have internet, and the electricity is not good. So whenever I was there, they would, like, definitely ask me for the work that I'm supposed to do, but finishing that they would focus more, like, giving me extra courses, learning more education, and also connecting me with some good people there, with the officials, and allowing me to, like, get to know them in a way better way. So this way I was able to make this interaction with different officials back in Afghanistan. Plus they also saw some of my activities as an advocate from a really young age, and they were like, they put the seed in my mind and was like, why don't you run for a position? And I was like, well, who's going to vote for me? I'm too young to be elected. But I got a call from General Razak, And then he was pretty active during that time, and he made a call to like a lot of definitely different peoples to get to know this information, like is it safe to have her or not. So then we had a back-to-back discussion. Finally I felt like, you know what, something need to be really changed, and if it's a change that I'm a change maker and I'm the reason to be for other girls for the safety or for opening those unique educational, you know, doors for them, and to be a bridge again, because as an elected provincial council member you are a bridge between the government and the public, because you come out of the public through the election process. So for me it was really important to kind of get to know everything. So before electing myself I kind of went to some of the groups that I was actively working with them as an activist, and then they were like, you know, that will be really a new face and we people will love it. And I was too young and I was like, let's just see what we can do. So I did it, and then I went in and I was like, I could not believe it, because I still remember that day I was cooking something and my father came and he just looked at me and he said, Sarina, you did it. And I was like, what did I do? Because you always like when father says you did it, it means like, did I do something wrong or what is wrong? And then he was like, you win, look at that. It was 12 o'clock. I was like, can't believe it. So connecting with everybody as a female, I think, you know, you don't even have a rights in some of the houses to choose what you want to wear, to choose what you want to eat. And having a choice to run for the elected provincial, like a big position, official position, it was a big thing for me to pursue my education and also do that. I was like, you know what, I'm serving, and it's a big like chance for me to kind of whatever things that I could not accomplish, I think, you know, I will try to make it possible for others to be easy, because nothing is easy in this life, especially in a country that has a lot of complicated situation and has a lot of complex like Afghanistan. Will never be easy. But after the election, things changed in my life. In my family's life, specifically in my life, because it really made me a different person, a different character, that I never thought that I could be a warrior. But I slowly, like, you know, it allowed me to get to know me in a better way, to kind of know the core of my, like, where it comes, like where this burning is coming out and why I'm doing what I'm doing in a way. So yeah, it really changed everything.
That is absolutely incredible. How old were you when you were first elected?
Oh, it was a really controversial like subject. You know, they even called me on in the Supreme Court. People cased on me like, you know, you are like, they will call me in some of the programs that your mouth still smells like a milk, and what you're doing in between them, because with whom I was working as a PC member, you're supposed to be 25. This is like the legal age. But for some exception reason, because women in Afghanistan, specifically as you mentioned in Kandahar, women don't desire to come out even for education, let about the official position, and coming from a Pashtun tribe is a pretty difficult. I was the youngest in Afghanistan in the election history of Afghanistan, so people were really after to find a specific age, which is still like kind of not clear to them, but I let it be that way. I should say, I always say I was the youngest. That should mean more than that, but I just graduated my school. I remember doing campaign during my 12th grade, changing my outfit in my father's car, and then doing the campaign, then doing my exam for the final run. So it was really like, sometimes we see a movies and like, oh, I know how that feels.
That's just amazing. So, talk to me about what it was like to be on the council. Like the first year of being on the council, how was that for you?
Challenging, really challenging. To the limit that I felt most of the time that it was a mistake as a woman to be that active and that outspoken, because there is a two, I would say two type of people, one or three type of people, that they just say but they don't mean it. They want to do activities but they can't do it. But there is another type of a third part, you know, personality, that they mean it, they do it, they go after it, and they desire to get it no matter what. They can't sleep till they don't get their goal, at least close to it, if not to achieve it. For me, it was pretty difficult because I was the first basketball player in Kandahar. I was the first trainer for the Kandahari women in Kandahar as a basketball trainer, as a coach to them. I had more than 41 students in Afghanistan in Kandahar. Well, early morning waking up 4 o'clock to just hide in the darkness to find a hopeful light, for doing that. And then also running for the official positions in the first year, I kind of gave up on that activities, which was really a tough decision for me, because you can't do both of it in Afghanistan as a woman. Then they will do a lot of inquiry on your background and kind of makes a lot of trouble for you. So that was one thing that I gave up. The first thing that I did in the first month, my father kind of said, you have to call it off if you want to really pursue your political life. Plus, it took me a really long time, even I would say till the end, I could not agree on some of the stuff with my colleagues, because of the different mindsets, because of the education differences. And it was really tough to kind of connect on some of the basic stuffs with them and be able to agree on some stuff, and seeing the stuff that the way that happened in Afghanistan, it could be way better. And as a young, you always desire to be like, okay, let's just be part of a positive stuff, because every history will remember every action you take as a political person, that. So as a woman, being the trying to be an inspiration person for others, to inspire them, you always try to like do the best. I should say I tried my best, but the first year until to the end, it was pretty tough, because I had three other colleagues. One just recently, it had been a year or two that she passed away in America. She came here in 2021 to for the safe shelter in America, for the safety and what happened in 2021. It had been 2 years, 2.5 years that she passed away. Another is living in California. She is married happily, and I'm still in touch. We still like kind of talk and gossip about the stuff that we have faced and the challenges that we have both faced, especially with that colleague. I wouldn't want to take her name yet, but we both were a provincial council member, and most of the time we both have faced a lot of challenges. We both were working as a team, but even people do not appreciate that, and they would even put more of like challenges, because we were as a team. We both have worked strongly as a sister, I would say, to make it strong, because we knew what is happening with us. A life threat, a bomb attack, a robbery attack at the home, by the own government most of the time, the challenges and the threats of being raped, the challenges of being killed, the challenges of what to wear, restricted not to even have. Can you believe it? I had a nail polish for the first time in my life when I came to America after my graduation. I was like, I want to get my nails done, and since then I love it. And I'm like, the only one thing that brings me a little bit of a happy therapy that I do to myself is getting my manicure done. So I think it was really tough for us. You have to be just in a specific face feature, how to look, what to look, and if you see something, you can give a reaction face wise, let about talking over it. Was pretty difficult, not because of the religious, but I think in Afghanistan people mix the religion with the culture. That's where there is a really thin line between it, and they really kind of mix that, because in Holy Quran we have, it says education is compulsory on men and women. There is nothing that have been said in Holy Quran that says education is just specifically for a man. But what we see these days, even with living in 2025, not being still able as Afghan girl to go after the 7th grade to the school, is a really basic needs. So we can see what is their mindset, and that never changed. It was worse in before even 2021 with some of our colleagues.
That's just so unfortunate to hear, and I guess maybe it explains why there hasn't been more pushback too against the Taliban's restrictions on women, if those were things that already, and as we talked about kind of earlier, Kandahar is a more culturally different area than other parts of Afghanistan, and so I'm not surprised that you had to look, and women politicians here have to look a certain way too, or they invite disdain. So it's just women everywhere have standards, but it's I can't imagine not being able to have your nails done. That's such a it's just such a nice thing. I don't go out without my nails looking nice, and so but I can understand where that would be. You don't want to look like you're trying to show off or something like that, or like you're too Western, or it's just this very needing to look a certain way and do a certain thing. And
Yeah, I think, in Afghanistan, things, especially Kandahar, I always say that if you want to bring peace in Afghanistan, I think the core of the peace is going to come from, Kandahar, Helmand, especially Kandahar, because it has border with a lot of, with a country that brings most likely challenges into other countries, especially, if it's the reason Kandahar is so restricted is because of that country. Because the culture, the closer you are to somewhere, the easy it is to adopt that culture or that behavior. So I get it that this way because we have a Herat, which is have a border with a different country. That if you go there, it's more of like you see the freedom, you see the different ideas in the education, other stuff. And if you see Kabul, it has like a really, different cultures, different people came together under the one umbrella and living their life peacefully back in 20, if we can say like, that time. But Kandahar have been a really dark, um, as much as it has a really strong history, and we have a lot of, good people out of there in a capital, in Kabul, as a president. But if we go back to the Kandahar, it is still like regarding women rights, especially for women, it have been a really challenging, province from day one till now. And I think if we really want to bring some changes in Afghanistan, we have to work on the areas like Kandahar, Helmand, Ghazni, Orozgan, those areas, because the changes will come from that, far area, because we do have a little bit of freedom even right now in Kabul. Women can go still out, if not for education purpose, but still can go out. But in Kandahar, a woman even during the government time could not even had the basic freedom of what was needed to have. So yeah.
yeah, it always drives me crazy when certain people will say, "Well, look at Kabul right now, and look at the women." And I say that's a totally different scenario. It was a totally different scenario during the war too. I mean, for instance, young women could live on their own in Kabul during the war years, and I don't think that most places in the country that would ever have happened, like a young woman living on her own. And so now, yes, it's a little bit different, but still, I wouldn't try it if I were an Afghan woman. Now, as a Western woman, sure I would, because the Taliban would love me, because I'd be posting it all over Instagram and making them look great. But yeah, I think that when people talk about what's happening in Kabul, I'm like, yeah, you need to go to the provinces. Go to the provinces and tell me what it's really like.
Yeah, and if you go to the provinces, don't limit it yourself there. Go to the village of that province. You will get the truth out of there. Because we, as a provincial council member, that was one of my, job to like kind of connect with the people through like the locals, and not just the locals around the city area, because they're more of like, more of educated and stuff like that. But you have to go, and each week we were making trips to different, of course, our provinces, but different districts, and then going as far as, we had the security, and the security allowed us to connect with the people there and to hear what is their problem. The first thing that they would say is, first, definitely everybody was asking for like agriculture, because Kandahar is one of that kind of provinces that the agriculture is pretty popular there, and people are busy with it, and they're happy and find joys in it. Plus, also like what we can do for the education. There were schools, like a lot of schools, just by name register in the ministry, but the money was coming out, but there was no teacher. Like if you don't have a graduated, students there in that village, how you will have a teacher? The city teacher is not gonna go travel for 1.5 hours each day back and forth, 3-4 hours to just teach somebody. That was not even a thing to like think of. But it was really like surprising during even the government time. We had a lot of gaps of a lot of things that caused what happened and the way it happened.
Sure. Yeah. I go back again to like Pashtana Durrani and how she decided to create Learn Afghanistan because the Taliban kept burning down schools in Kandahar for girls. And so the girls had nowhere to go and they were home, and she convinced local Kandahari religious leaders that no, like you said, women are supposed to be educated per the Quran, and here's a way to do that. And that being able to change that mindset is very powerful and difficult and takes time. And I agree with you that if we ever are able to change that, it has to come in those areas in the South and Southwest. They're just so, it's the Taliban's heartland. It's where those ideas take strongest hold. So I, yeah, everything you're saying, I fully agree with. I'd love to hear, subsequent years. How often were elections for provincial council? Was it yearly?
It was not yearly. It was like with the president of like the same process as the president of Afghanistan. Like, whenever we had that election, we will go the same process with our election, like ahead of like maybe sometime 4 months ahead of it, or sometime 4 months behind that. But it my election started in October. I got the result in October 2020, 2014, and then from that time till like it was supposed to be for 4 years. In the fifth year there should be like election process again for the new candidates, but unfortunately in Afghanistan we had really trouble, so therefore they kind of paused on the election, and that went for the whole 8 years to 9 years, which was another like problem, because in an election it costs a lot of money and budget and planning the stuff, so it was really kind of that stuff. And then we had, not at some point we had two presidents, so it was another trouble. So Afghanistan was full of like this 20 years that when we count on it, other than the President Hamid Karzai's time, I think the rest was pretty complicated. Like both five years, the 10 years were, if we count that, we had our own biggest issue, national issues, where we did not find any conclusion for it. And that also caused like kind of dividing people mindsets, tribe wise, because in Afghanistan each person comes from a specific tribe and they value that more than the individual, like I can say, like your skills, your personality, you yourself. They value where you come, who knows you, and then what's your type, which province you come from. So that caused a lot of problem. Last 10 years we were not just busy internationally or fighting with Taliban's, or fighting for education. We were also fighting against these mindsets which still exist in Afghanistan.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the tribal nature of everything is still so important, and you see it in the Twitter battles that continue to this day of, who is going to lead Afghanistan next, and people get very in their corner of, my group over your group, and it's very difficult to watch as a Westerner because we don't have anything quite similar to it. I mean, we have our Republican Democrat, but that's not as, it's different. So it's very unique to watch it. And what was it like for you to exist in that system and try to make things work, knowing that you've got all the different Pashtun sub-tribes around you, and how do you help represent all of them? Or was that not really very difficult?
Well, it was definitely difficult. Even in America, if you come from a certain like skin color, it's difficult to even sometime in some areas and platform to talk about it. So, let about Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, being a woman is a difficult to even just exist there. And then holding a chair, the specific like a big official chairs and representing the whole province in the capital is another, responsibility. As I said, it's not just about you representing yourself or thinking or saying what you want to say. It's more of like you have to come up with the values of not just yourself but the family plus the community plus the provinces, and what the goal of yours, a big responsibility on many shoulders. I was too young, but I think to a limit of the knowledge that I had, I wouldn't say that I did the greatest job at that platform to be like so great, because there was some limitation toward like you had this big title, but you were so limited to perform even half of your due diligence. So you have to watch, you have to wait, you have to follow the process, and the process sometimes fails, and you have to just come up with another technique and use it. But as you know, I worked with the NATO Special Forces. We always have ABC plan, because if one did not work, this was how my brain was functioning. So even in Afghanistan, working with my other colleagues, some of them like how sharp your mind works. Like we just said we can't do it because of that reason, but now you come up with this strategy. I was like, we have to be, because you grow up in an environment where nobody brings you flour. It is the bullets are running on your like roof and you are sleeping underneath that. So you grew up in that environment where you are not dealing with the normal peoples, and normal is, I got to understand how the normal human beings are, how some of the debates professionally and officially politically needs to be handled in America, by having different conferences during when I was elected provincial council member. I had privileged to come to the State Department program, which was International Visitor Program. It still exists. I was, invited and had the different visits to different places with different political members, and I was like, oh wow, we can do it this way. I think the more you go and visit, the more you adopt the stuff, and then you can implement not maybe the full of it, because there is a big difference between Afghanistan and America in the system, the culture, the mindsets, but at least you are knowledgeable and now you can handle certain stuff in a different way, so then other people sees it, they will handle it in different way. But again, it comes to like changing of a house. If you build up something, it's easy to destroy that. It's difficult to rebuild that. It will take like maybe a little bit longer than even before how easy it was, because first you had a structure and then you build it. Now it's destroyed. You have to come with a different technique of not losing that stability. So in Afghanistan, we had the same fear. Each time when we were doing the activities, we had some sort of like big problems through the community, family members, and Taliban, and security issue, and even sometime being attacked by another woman in Afghanistan. That was like pretty in the end, like in 2018, 2019. I had, I think, a pause somewhere because something happened in one of the incidents in Kabul, and I was like, wait, this was a woman did that. And then repeatedly, I kind of like, my brain kind of focused more on those kind of actions and stories, and I was like, well, it's not that we are just fighting back for like a gender based, being divided on two genders, but we are also fighting for back with this, the same gender, for asking and seeking this goal that we all believe on it, but in a different way. So it was another topic. There were a lot of issues. I think this all issue will come. Like we have issues in America right now, a lot of issues that we can discuss, we can talk, we can have our opinion on it. But in Afghanistan, you can't even have an opinion. You see wrong thing, you have to just, in some of the areas, you have to just, most of the time, you have to just keep silence, because if you speak up, there were people who speak. There were journalists, some of my friends, they died. They were killed after just posting one mini post on the Facebook, not even let about like a big social platform. So everybody was kind of afraid. And then I had a privilege to visit in Canada in 2018 to one of the top college in Ottawa. It is called Canadian Women Helping Afghan Women. This is a big institute, and they help you to be a lawyer. And they were supporting Afghan girls a lot. They invited me there as a speaker. So during my speech and then learning from them and hearing what is happening and how their system works, I was like, you know what, if I really want to bring a change, I have to change myself. I have to change how I present them and how I present myself, because everything starts from you first. And I have to educate myself on certain stuff that really will bring a long run changes and meaning to the Afghan girl's life and my life. So that is when I desired to have to get my master's. I was like, I gotta work for it. Then I got selected in Bush Foundation after spending a lot of time on filling the application for their PLP Personal Leadership Program. And half of the program was in America to learn and gain the knowledge, and half of the program was go back to your home country, implement that, and bring your PLP, Personal Leadership Program, what you worked, what you achieved, what is the result of it, which was a really interesting program. I found it, and then during that time I got to know a lot of professors, and then I was like, well, Mary Law College, I filed for a lot of, applications, and then found a really humble individual who served in Afghanistan for the special unit, special forces, and he's a colonel. He's still working, not on active duties, but as a contractor for one of the college in Tampa. He became my, supporter. He was like, you know what, I have 2 sons, no daughter. I want to call you daughter if that's okay. But I'm Christian, you're a Muslim. And I was like, you know what, having the thought of this clear thought about like a woman and seeing this opposite gender calling you a daughter and providing you the support that you need, that any father would provide, that is enough for me to believe on it. So since, then I was just, having back-to-back some achievements. Recently I published one of my mini-size book that talks about the education and it's for the American kids to never give up on their dream. It's available on Amazon. I will do a little bit of marketing here, but it's Sarina of Kandahar, the name of the book is. And it's for the little kids, just to like give them, because the American kids, when I see them, they're such as innocent. I find them so innocent. They don't have any idea of what is happening abroad. Like when people say that, oh, you were elected provincial council member. When I was a student in Wilmer, they were like, you did this all? You were meeting with the president, giving them advice. You were meeting with the parliament. I was like, yeah, because I was one of them. And they were like, we are still finding what to do in our career, and you already have went through half of your career. I'm like, no, there is a lot to like do in this earth, and we are here for a specific purpose, and everybody will serve their own due diligence in this earth, and then whatever happens, we will have our result in our hand, the achievement that we will have. So I think life is not with no challenges. It will be really kind of, no life is smooth, even not in America. It have been almost close to 10 years that I'm in America. I would say nothing have been easy for me. Everything, even at this point, finding a job with all those experience have been a really big challenge for me. But never giving up. I think what I have learned being an Afghan woman, never give up. Because you can't give up. You give up, you lose. You're done. So you got to keep going on with the different ambition, different reasons. Find sources for yourself. When I got furlough, I was like, what to do, and the schools were closed for the kids in Afghanistan. And I come up with the idea. I was like, why not to create this mini-sized book, thanks to my team who actively worked on that. And it was two young kids, Lexi and Maya. They both worked so hard. They are located in Jacksonville, Florida. And I'm going to be meeting with them in December to do some launching over the TV. But they were like, let's just do it. And we did it.
It's amazing. And it is so important to teach. I used to homeschool my daughter, and the summer before we stopped doing homeschool, we did travel around the world via books. And it was during COVID, so we weren't going to be traveling anywhere. And of course, because of what I do, the first place we traveled through books was Afghanistan. And there are so many great books about Afghan history. I mean, Queen Gaharshad, there are some beautiful books about Queen Gaharshad. And I tried to make sure that people, I would post them to my social media so that people would see it, so that they could go get that book and show it to their children so they understand a little bit about the world outside of, the things that they're exposed to all the time very easily. And so I'm really excited to add this to our collection, because we have quite the collection of Afghanistan picture books, and I can't wait to see this. It's not available now, is it?
It is available right now. It is some of my friends, and they already got it. And I was like, well, some people show up to my door. They're like, can you sign it for me? And I was like, oh my God, you guys are making me so emotional right now about this. Even though this part, just the book is just like some of the chapters of like what I went through during getting and pursuing my education, from being a Kandahari little girl coming to America, having a dream of a master's, and now PhD. And never giving up, as much as challenges I faced, because when I moved to America, of course, the English, I had the knowledge of English, but speaking academically, writing academically, and understanding and listening, and now I speak so fast like a New Yorker person. But before that, I was like barely could make a paragraph in my mind and the right word and the concept, and how to pass my message correctly to some other people. But it was really tough. But I think, if I can make it, anybody will be able to make it with all the stress, because I was doing a part-time job and then study and supporting my family, the stress and everything, and resigning from my membership, because I did not just left it. I came, got my master's, was allowed by the head of the provincial council member, because for the education purpose you can go, but each year you have to make a visit, which happened to be a little bit delayed because of my exam, and they asked me to resign. So it was another step to be able to success in my education part. I sacrificed for what I worked so hard and went through the election, and I just resigned. Could not, have that anymore. And I was like, what, I will have in future biggest position, and I have to just focus right now on what I have started already. So yeah, it will be really interesting book for your daughter. I think she would love it because we moved most of the struggle area. We just wanted like to make it pretty pure, more of like inspiration, and it is gonna be interesting for her to read it. And I hope to meet her one day.
Oh yeah, she would love that. She would think you are so lovely. I'm already. She would fangirl all over you. Um, how did that happen? I just got really the light ended. Um, the Taliban are trying to make me shut up by ruining my face. Okay, so I guess before we end tonight, I would love to hear. Were you here then when August 15th happened in 2021? Okay, so that's how you were able to work at Dulles. Can you tell me a little bit about what that was like being in Dulles as people were coming here from the withdrawal?
Yeah, it was I had a internship during that time with the CSIS, but one of my friend told me, and of course my family, I was working to get my family to Canada, and they are safe. They all are together in Canada finally. But during that time I was pretty stressed, and I was like, I need to do something that kind of satisfies my this stress, to reduce the stress, and the only one way I can think of like to volunteer somewhere. But I found this full job, and they were like, you can come at the night shift. So I was going to the night and seeing these people coming with just one outfit with nothing in their hand, nothing. Some people left everything behind, like just came whatever they were having on their body, period. And seeing them and the way they were talking and the story how they came, because I was working as a translator with one of the officers, and listening to their stories, and not having any documents, and not even knowing, some family just came and they were like divided, and then reunion of the family because they kind of in the run of whatever fear they had during that time, to just get to a plane was, for each family member that was really important. And some family members have left their family and lost their family members because they were able to get to the plane but not the rest of them, which was a really big emotional part. They really needed somebody who can talk their language and can give them a little bit of empathy. And I think that was pretty heavy on most of the translator, like including myself, because seeing them in a pod, we could like put ourselves there easily, plus seeing our families in the same situation while we were away here. So as an immigrant, you already do struggle through the paperwork and all the hardship that you go through, but also seeing and having this trauma and facing this individual that come from the same region and country that you are, it is another thing that will stay for you. Like I would say, the trauma that will stay for you for the rest of your life, and you can never forget that the moments. And then that from that time, I just since even till now, I always say that if there is any paperwork that I can do, because I did study law, and one of the course that I took was immigration law, for 4 months. So I'm like, any paperwork that I can do, I'm happy to fill that for you, so you guys can double check, and with your lawyer, instead of paying a bunch of money, because most people cannot afford. But it was kind of like, more than stress. I think I forgot the stress, but more than emotion, and feeling these emotions into your body, and then seeing it. It was difficult, even for the officers. They were like, we have never seen something like that in years, because the plane will just drop them all, and they will leave under the big shelter with food and some needs that they had to have, and everybody's lost what to do, and most of them went through a lot of depression, because it takes additional time to check their background check, because they do not come in a like the proper way that any person would enter another country. So there was a process of doing everything before getting them out of the each shelters or places that they were, the bases that we had.
Yeah, I just can't even imagine what that would have been like for all of the people who got pulled out with like a bag of their most important possessions, which was maybe a change of clothes and a family picture, and like nothing like what they needed. And then to have to see it and to know that if you had been there still, you would have been on that plane, right? Like, hopefully. And if not, then you would have been in an even worse situation. And like, what was that like? Because so many of your jobs, when I was looking at the jobs that you've been doing over the years, so many of them have been focused on Afghanistan in this period when Afghanistan has just fallen into darkness for men and women alike. So how has that been for you to kind of be steeped in that every day, obviously from like a this is my homeland perspective, but then also this is my job.
I think it is my job. Not, I believe it is. And I always say that for the reason that I have this, leadership quality in me, it's not because why not other of my sibling has the same sort of idea to work. I was the only one person who came out and say, you know what, I want to do something different. I want to be a political member here, the key member, something to like change people's life in a better way that I think. So I believe I do have a big responsibilities. I might not be involved yet directly to the biggest policies and stuff that involves Afghanistan, but I'm trying to get there and I'm working on my skills to sharpen as possible to get involved there. I'm actively being part of like a lot of meetings and programs regarding Afghanistan. As you said, you go, we have saying in our local language, you go where your heart goes, your feet goes where your heart goes. So the reason I always end up being back focused on Afghanistan in each of my jobs, in each of the programs that so far I have done, even having this book, I was like, what a coincidence, the schools are closed, and I end up, having this little beautiful book regarding education. So I think, God, there is always a purpose. I'm a believer, and I believe I'm here to like maybe serve in a big position for Afghan women, and that will be an honor for me, and it have been an honor for me being an Afghan woman and fighting and facing those struggles that I faced, which is making me not weak, it's making me stronger. Definitely as a woman I sometimes think, and I have my own emotions, and I sit and it makes me cry to see Afghanistan in a way that is right now, even just seeing the flag being down and the woman issue. And in general, I talk to some of my colleagues who are men, not even female, and they're like, what, it's really depressing here. It's really depressing, Sarina. Even hearing that from a strong man, because for men it takes a lot for Afghan men to kind of break down these barriers and culture stuff and come with the tears and says, what, we are really in a bad situation. So I think, most of the Afghan youth, the youngest generation that are stuck in Afghanistan really felt from their heart what we as a woman have felt from years, and I think that will bring a really big change within them if they get the opportunity again to have a freedom of their opinion. I think they will stay and fight with us shoulder by shoulder through this whatever term we have for the culture restrictions, religion restrictions, and all those stuff, the chains that they put in our neck to stop us from flying where we are supposed to fly. So I believe, seeing it is making me in one hand emotional and a lot of like, brings up a lot of anxiety that we could do better. We used to be a really good country, open about stuff. When I see my mother's pictures in those beautiful skirts, I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe it. Seems like you're maybe in one of the America or Europe country. I can't believe it's Afghanistan. But seeing my life being under the black hijab and then having this burqa, which is not even part of our culture, no religion. So definitely it hurts. But I also believe, what happened this 4 years, the youth, the young generation who have lived and who are there, they really kind of understand that what we were going through and what we believed and we were fighting, the mindset, the mentality, and the stuff, they really kind of maybe will in some way hopefully relate to that, because they are also right now in the same boat. They cannot be themselves. They have to have a beer, they have to wear in a certain way, they have to go every single day for the prayer, which is love to do it, but you should not force anybody, because this is not what Islam says. You can't force somebody to be the perfect Muslim. That's their choice to be. And that's why we are human and we have a nice frame. The book, the Holy Quran, is not because you have to enforce that and implement that forcefully on people. It's because it just gives you a purpose, a beautiful purpose, to put your life in a beautiful frame and practice that every single day to be a better version of yourself. But by enforcing that on other human being forcefully, I can't, like, I wouldn't go deep about that subject. It's pretty sensitive, but I'm really kind of like, can't support that, mindset. But I believe, we will have a bright future. I still believe the work that you all have invested on us. If I am able to speak here, it's because of the programs that the UN, the America, the Canada, and other embassy have invested. Is because of that I'm able to right now speak English, be able to get my master's in America, be able to like live the best life, and be able to be a voice for other women who are stuck in Afghanistan. Otherwise, nothing would happen. I will be one of them and stuck there and having right now 5 to 4 kids.
Absolutely. That's 100% true. And I tell people that too, because I know US veterans struggle sometimes and say, what was this all for? And that's, you are like the reason that it is all for that. Like, you were able to do the things you were because there was a change from the Taliban's 96 to 2001 regime. And I know that so many people say, yes, you're going to have to rebuild this entire system again, right? But we did it once. I just don't. There's so much that has to happen before that rebuilding can happen. But I'm grateful that women like yourself and so many other well educated Afghans were able to get to safety and are pursuing their education continually now and saying, you're not going to keep me down. You know, the Taliban can do what they will inside the country, but they can't do anything to people in the diaspora. So
True. And I believe, this time, we have even better opportunity than ever because, the people who have left Afghanistan have worked, not just sit around, they just work more to like work on their future, their life and their betterness and their better version. So looking to myself, I would say like, what, if there is anything that I can do in Afghanistan to go back and implement some of the stuff to make it, better, I think that this time we have a big teams, not in America just, but in Canada, in other countries, because most of the talented people in the young generation who can speak different languages and are able to connect easily with them and have hold really good positions there in Afghanistan and know the core of Afghanistan from culture-wise, religions-wise, and can speak their language. I think if they kind of gather these people and make a team and send back, if there is any policy in the future in Afghanistan, I think there should be, and there might be, it's maybe under the process, who knows what is happening. I think the State Department should, come up with the idea of pulling this, individuals, this, different characters, different qualities, different skills that they have, and gather them and reunion them, and also have a really good strong team to be able to in the future use them for whatever project that they will have in Afghanistan for a better change in the government, with the new government that they would recognize officially at some point.
yeah, I'm hoping that there will be something like that too. I know that there are groups like, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Jason Hauk at Global Friends of Afghanistan. I know he's done so much great work trying to get people together, and that's the thing, is we need more people to get Afghans together, to get the ability for like a government in exile basically to form and be able to overcome some of those struggles of, I think who is going to lead is going to be such a huge thing, right? Because the youth of Afghanistan don't want to see the leaders from before coming back to power because of what they bring with them, the struggle that has already been there. There's a lot to do. There's so much to do, but it's listening to you talk about what you learned being part of those groups and seeing how democracy works, from this perspective and taking that home. I mean, this is the perfect opportunity to do that. Right now is the time to do that. And then, the Taliban can't stay. Hate cannot stay forever. You can already see the cracks forming and just the sad thing is that humans are the victims, not the Taliban. It's the people who are, coming back as refugees, the people who are dying in earthquakes who didn't need to necessarily die in those earthquakes, but they didn't get access to care because the Taliban couldn't figure out how to help women, or they couldn't let the UN employ women. And so, there's just so much that the Taliban's hate has harmed. And it's really sickening to think of all of it. But anyway, I think that there is hope, and let's think about the hope. And I want to talk about, to conclude here, you want to get your PhD, and I want to hear about what you want to get that PhD in, because I know it's going to happen. Like, I can just already sense it. It's going to happen. And what do you need to do that? And how can listeners help you with that process?
I would love to like get my PhD in international communication and diplomacy. I think that's two things that I would desire to have it. Most of the stuff that in Afghanistan we have faced is because we did not have a good communication. If it was locally or if it was internationally, I think if I have that, since I speak 6 languages, it will be a really great thing for me to add into it and be able in future to hold, who knows, maybe be the first female president in Afghanistan at some point when I get to that certain age. But also diplomacy is really important because you're representing your country in a different country, and you have to be so specific and so strong. So I see myself in that two different position where I'm like, if I want to invest my time and dedication to something, it will be that two things to pursue my PhD with it. I have looked some of the programs, but as you know that things are pretty expensive these days. So I'm trying to like find the best opportunities that I can and any support that I can receive to be able to get my PhD done and get it in a right way and with the right university.
Yeah, it's I know that there are so many things out there, but I am not an expert in that. And it's a question I hear all the time from people. How can I get this and how can I do this? But I think I know that there are listeners out there who know exactly how to get that done and where to look and who can connect you, and I'm hoping that you can find something cuz that's the future, right? If you can do that, I can just see you being such a huge, I mean, you can do it anyway with what you've already accomplished, but I think that it would just be an added boon to the future of Afghanistan.
Yeah, especially as a woman being educated and being sponsored for this PhD, I think it will mean not just to me but for most of the women that okay, somebody is able. While we have this a lot of challenges in Afghanistan, but the same Afghan women, if they give the opportunity to the Afghan girls, they are not no less than any other girls. They will do the same thing and they will achieve the highest education as they desire to and want to. So yeah.
Yeah, it's such a good, yes, it's a role model for all these Afghan girls who are, and I think the interesting thing that I love, and I've talked about this with Afghan women before, but in the West, you have to go to school, right? You have to go. And so it's kind of like oh man, another year. Afghan girls are like, please, I'll go retake this year if you just let me stay in school. And the hopes and aspirations have not been crushed in those who still are able to get these remote learning opportunities, and they need to see women like you know.
That's for sure. Because one of some of my family members, that the girls that I know that were really inspired by us, and they will always come to our home, like my relatives, to like spend time with us because we could like have the books, study, and library and stuff kind of in the home because I was in the school and the rest of my sister. But seeing them, and whenever I have asked them, what is your dream, what do you want to do, she's like, I want to get to a school. I hope my father allows me to go back to the school, but if not that, I hope he gets me married to somebody who will allow me to go to school. So even there, what they were connecting the big decision of their life of marriage, starting a new family, with a hope of like maybe this individual will give me a chance to pursue my education, just the schooling, let about like the highest education that we dream of or we try here in America for it. But it really reminds me of that. It's really important source for the girls there in Afghanistan, and they really desire to have it. I wish they will get the opportunity in future to be able to at least have that choice for them to like do it or not. That should be their choice as a human being. That's a really basic need or basic choice that they can make for themselves. Before I would just add this, comment into it. Before moving to America, I was thinking maybe it's a big thing my father and my parents did to like the biggest thing they did to allow me to get education. But coming to America, of course, it's still the biggest thing that they have done for me coming from the culture in the country. But when I came to America, this was the biggest change to the basic for me, the basic thing that a parents can do here. Even they motivate you, they push you, they pay for your schooling there. They work so hard to get the scholarship, they work so hard even having a job and doing their studies. The girls, I have seen them doing the nursing and also going to the school, to the medical school, paying for themselves, but still having this fear of when the parents will say you can't do it anymore, or you're married, or we are done. So hopefully those basic stuff will, the biggest will come to the basic one day to the Afghan girls, and it have came to me at some point.
Yeah, and I hate to do this because we're on such a hopeful note, but I've seen in the last just 2 days, I've seen headlines of girls committing suicide because they were forced to marry a Taliban member. I guarantee you, a Taliban member is not going to let you go to school, secretly or otherwise. So, and they know this is hopeless. And the more that the Taliban, become part of that society, the more difficult it is for someone to say, no, I won't marry my daughter to you, because they know what could happen if they don't do that. And so Yeah, and then those children are absolutely going to be sent into that madrasa system that the Taliban are creating and, kept from education. So, yeah, it's I don't know. I just when I think about what's happening now and the trajectory that we're on, I feel so hopeless. But then I see women like you, and that is honestly that's where I see the hope is you and Pashtana Durrani and these girls that are still learning in secret. And I think that I just don't know how do you get rid of the Taliban. That's like the thing. You have to get rid of the Taliban because otherwise, I don't see them in a power sharing agreement. I don't see them saying, yeah, it's okay if you get rid of our madrasa schools and you bring back, I don't, they're not going to do that. They didn't do that for 20 years. So that's the hard part is what do you do with them?
I believe, for 20 years they were kicked out of Afghanistan and they were living in abroad in a different country where they were fighting with us. And I'm not talking here about the head of the Taliban and the people because they have lived the best life, I could say, because their daughters and wives or family members are pretty safe in a different country, and they're even wearing the adopted the Western culture in the different countries, and they're going to education in the highest education if you ask any of the leaders that are right now in charge of Afghanistan, especially in capital. But coming to the locals area, I think they were the one who were in the mountains most likely fighting and training other people to fight with us with the bombing and other stuff. So they will definitely, it will take a lot of long time to train them and kind of let them to adopt the same behavior, because we even had an issue with the locals in Afghanistan, 4 years before, to change their mindset. Right now, changing the whole mindset of this, group that was, we used to call them terrorist group, and still, they are. And if you Google Taliban in the Wikipedia, it comes up, the history of them pulls out. So not right now, knowing them as a like holding this power in that country is way different. It's really kind of sometimes you can't accept that, but that is the way it is. But I don't see them being kicked out of Afghanistan again, but I see them at some point sharing the government. I wouldn't put any statement out there, but being from Afghanistan, especially from Kandahar, and have worked and served in a really special position for years, for 7 to 6 years, and worked with the special forces of USA. From my experience and what I'm seeing, at some point they will come within maybe 1 to 2 years. They will come with the conclusion of sharing the power, because as you mentioned that they barely can handle how to manage the health system plus the women system. I'm sure that they would want to have a solution for it, and they always say we are working for the school of the girls. We are working each time when they have asked, if they say it's under the process, but they don't have any woman to like tell them what is the need of a woman. So of course no woman is going to go and work with them because everybody is afraid. So I think they want to come up, hopefully they will come up with a strategy of like dividing the power, because no election have happened, whatever it was, like they occupied right now the country. There should be a strategy, there should be a way that the international country now, they should find that, they should come up with a conclusion. I think we should not forget that most of the development project have been funded by the international community, and they are the one who are sending the money to Afghanistan. They are the one who are empowering them in some ways, if it's within the scene or behind the scene. We have to be like, in Afghanistan, what have happened from last 20 years, we should not forget what have happened. One. Second, that nobody, even a kid, will understand what exactly happened. Maybe we would not be able to speak about what, like, step by step, but we know what happened. So let's just be realistic as we live in 2025, and more of like coming up with the solution instead of pointing out the problems. I am sure the Taliban will never leave Afghanistan. It took them 20 years of a fight and debate and conversation and the peace negotiation title underneath that, and having conferences back to back, and millions of money invested on that conferences, and no result. Finally came with the guns and took over the country. And when hundreds and thousands of people died in the airport of Kabul, that day my family was stuck there. My family, within 5 minutes of the difference of their entrance, there was a bomb. I could lose my family, as many others lost their families, including the American family, the soldier that died. So we have to respect that blood, and we have to respect the army that was there, the uniform, the people that have died in the uniform. for me, when it comes to the uniform, it really kind of brings the uniqueness of that. And we should be able to kind of, at least out of respect to that, we should be able to kind of come up with a strategy of any strategy that will open a little brightness to the Afghan people in Afghanistan. Because I, being in America, I can come up and talk from day to the morning, morning to the night. But they are the one who are suffering. They are the one who are in the dark from last 4 years. We have screamed so much to please. We are here. Let's just get together, do something, do something. 4 years, the entire international community, other than the official statements, posters, posters, they haven't done anything in practical in Afghanistan. Let's just be realistic. Nobody has said, okay, we took this course of action. I know some of the organizations are still actively working in Afghanistan, but what are like the hopes for us as a woman, as like the part of that community, part of the country? In Afghanistan, we don't have 50-50, 50% men, 50% women. It is more than 53% population is a woman. So more than 3%, population or the community is down there in the dark. Just this little, even though most of the men are right now doing like very basic stuff just to afford the food for themselves. They're not trying to be up there on the red line. So they have been attacked multiple times and they will be in the prison because of their activities. So they're trying to like be underground at this point. So we have to come up with a solution. At the end of the day, so it have been 4 years. Even spending one day in that situation, I think me and you would not even guess, even me being from Afghanistan, I swear we will not be able to survive in that kind of environment, let above spending 4 years.
And you know what I will say, Sarina, is you have that expertise, and I'm hoping you're right, and that I am so wrong, and that there will be something with a power sharing agreement or something. Because you're right, the Taliban are not just going to say we're done. Where would they go? That's that. They don't have anywhere to go. They're not going to go back to Pakistan, especially not right now with the whole.
Yeah, that's why, we have that so to be open. So I think, they speak our languages, they understand. They used to live in Afghanistan, their family used to live, so they have to like out of, they call themselves, we are Afghan. So if you are Afghan, you have to think about the entire Afghani people, like the Afghan people there that are living, the future of them, the future of the country, as calling yourself the government of that country. So I think it should not be a personal thing. It should be a professional and national thing. And it's a national thing. If the international wants to have this government known officially, they have to come up with a strategy. I'm thinking as somebody who have studied international law, who have studied international communication, and also international, crisis that happens and how the solution comes. So most of the country that I have had my thesis on, they will have to come with a conclusion. If it's even from now to 10 more years, if Taliban are in the same situation, at the end of the day, we as an international community that we call, the country needs to come together and kind of give them any title that they desire, but at least choose black or white, not to be in the gray anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah, they've done too much of kowtowing to the Taliban and saying, "Yeah, we'll let Afghan women won't come to this meeting." Like, no. You're the UN. You don't let the Taliban tell you what to do. You tell the Taliban what to do. And if they don't want to come, you don't meet with them. You make them. You are the United Nations, and that's so many groups keep doing that. And it's like, no. The Taliban doesn't come to your country and subjugate your women, India. Like, no. That doesn't happen. So yeah, I think the internet.
Conference. Did you notice that in the first conference in India there was no woman, but in the second round of it, all women. I loved it to see these elegant women sitting there and asking questions, and I was like, you know what? That's not to fight back with them, but that's how to show them that they are part of us. And just because you don't like it, you don't allow it, it doesn't mean. And you occupy the country, do not even came with peaceful way. We are not going to change our values for you. And I think every country should stick with that thing. That's the smoothest way that they can proceed regarding to fight for the Afghan woman.
Yeah, send your women. If you're going to go negotiate with them, send your women. and show them we have strong women here, we have educated women here, and that's why we're successful.
I think I could like just end up with that, one thing. I don't know what is the problem of them with the woman? Because you know what? You have a mother who raised you was a woman. Your father wife was the woman. You give like the woman gave a birth to you, raised you. The reason you are alive because of her choosing to keep you. And then you have a wife with whom you share your entire life, your privacy, or like raising the family together, the uniqueness, the love of this life is like having a family. And then you and your daughter is a woman. Like, I don't get the concept of having a problem with the woman and not even allowing them to sit with them shoulder by shoulder with you, even if you say we need a hijab in Saudi Arab or even in Dubai. Every woman is allowed right now to travel abroad without a mahram. They are in the hijab. Go, it's okay. Which Afghan woman came in the Western cultural outfit that said, I want to work with you in this outfit because I love it? No, of course, we always had our scarf on the top of our head. We had our long hijab because this is not what you're enforcing, but this is what the religious part says to us, and we choose to do it out of respect for our family, for ourselves, for our religion. So I don't know, I don't find it like really reasonable when it comes to women. Even they don't answer, they don't even make, even with me in the provincial council, some men did not make eyes contact to me. They would just talk to me like this or make me to like put my eyes down. I never did it. Seeing my personality, you would never believe that I would put my eyes down. So never done it. So they would do it. And I'm like, if you can't even look to me eyes by eyes, this is not like something normal. Something bad is like happening in your brain that you should do it this way.
Absolutely. They did it to Ramita Navai went in. She's an amazing documentarian. And you could see it. The Afghan, like the Taliban leaders that she was talking to, they just wouldn't look at her. They told her to put her hair away. And it's like, it's Afghanistan Uncovered is the name of the documentary she did. It was in the summer of 2022. And it was just so incredible to watch. How they treated her as a Western woman. They've gotten a lot smarter since then. But in the beginning, it was so telling.
So that again, the same subject comes like if we connect, it takes them time to know the stuff, but they should allow this, this community of women to come out and be work with them, so they get to use this environment and let the locals to live their own normal life. I think, then they will able to learn more and be part of the international community and what they want to pursue as a government to have success in whatever they are planning to. But keeping them like, silence would not even help them. That will increase more of the question, increase more of the sensitivities internationally. And I think, I was thinking that when they came back, I think that there will be a big changes than before and now. But holding back on the Afghan women's school or girls' schools, it really kind of surprised me. I was like, this is not what I was seriously thinking, because I thought that they took over, so they come up with maybe a new strategy, new faces, new way. But the looks were definitely new because they look way better than before now, with the taking care of themselves. But surprisingly, the action is still the same.
Yeah, they're not the Taliban 2.0 like everybody keeps saying. It's like, no, they're the same. They're the same people, and they are learning a little bit, but it's still, they're learning how to subjugate women better. And I want to add to what you said about they were raised by women. Like, when they say, oh, you don't need a midwife because God will take care of you in childbirth, what I always say is, when I had my two kids, it wasn't God who made sure that they didn't die and I didn't die. It was a bunch of nurses and doctors who did that. And of course, like, I'm sure God had his hand on all of that, right? But you need that. And they've banned women from doing that. And the future of Afghanistan needs women having babies. So if you're going to let those women die in childbirth and let those children die in childbirth, what does the future of Afghanistan look like? It's very distressing. So just their views are not going to lead to a healthy and successful Afghanistan, and they need to be just I don't know how you deprogram a Talib. I don't know how that works.
I think, their views are even not matching. They don't have the same statement. Each time their statement changes according to the environment or maybe according to their mindset. Because in one hand they say, oh, we don't want a woman to go to the school. Even the medical schools are right now closed out. And then in another hand they say, oh, we don't want a woman to go to a man doctor. So if I don't have a graduated doctor in my community, how would I will be able to go and find a female doctor? So you are not. And then we have the airport where there is a checkpoint that checks you. Of course we don't have all kind of like items like in America that you go to the system and you just put your hand up and everything is checked by the machine. We have like a woman checking. So if a woman is not, if there is no police forces or a woman involved there or trained properly, you can't have that. Are you going to have a man to come and check a female? So how that in every part, this is just a two example, but in every section, every part, we will need a woman. Even with the education right now, they are stuck like how to come up with a nice method or policy of a female, schools. Even though I don't get the idea of, they were like, oh, women's school is that and this and the boys are joined. But no, I study in Kandahar. The women's school is separated. A men's school is way different school. There is no men's school and female school were kind of not like mixed. It was, we were just going to the girls schools, the government school. So I don't understand like what exactly they want to pursue. I think one of the things that they know really, if you have noticed that, I have noticed that personally, whenever there were like internationally other subjects like Ukraine, Gaza and other subjects on top of the topic during that time, they would press more the woman issue to kind of have their name on the top. And then again they will slow it down again and give it a little bit time, and then again press on another subject of women to just be on the top of the tongue of the people here internationally.
So interesting. I always saw it as they were using the cover of those disasters to do more against women without people saying much. Because even, I was amazed. I've been writing a book about the last 4 years of covering Afghanistan because it's been so harrowing and there's so much to say. And one of the things that I said is, when they told girls, yeah, you can go back to school, and then they went back on that the very same day. It was right after Ukraine. And I waited for the world to literally light on fire in anger. And nobody did anything. And I thought they are, and that was also like Ukraine was when they started doing the house to house searches because everybody's so focused on that. And yeah, like there was media attention, but I almost felt it's interesting. I wonder, we should ask a Talib, were you doing it to make sure you were in the media, or were you doing it so that you wouldn't get seen doing the heinous thing? Either way, you're right. Every time that there was an uptick, that's when we see more pressure on the people. And it's just, it's heinous. I've never seen a more cruel, well, maybe that's not true, but it is very cruel and it's hard to watch. And I can't wait to see a future where Afghans can finally have some peace, because it's been far too long without peace for Afghans, and that's a hard thing to experience for such a long time. It's not fair for anyone. Sarina, I want to give you the final word. What is there anything that we didn't cover? Anything that you want to say as final thoughts? The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, thank you for having me. I think the this is a big thing that we are doing right now, to be their voice and discuss these things, because first, since like some years there is a lot of back-to-back interviews and stuff. I think that's how we can get the attention of the senior leaders, international leaders, to pay attention to some of the details that they might not notice during their daily life. But what we say is that a brief information of each part of Afghanistan so far that we discussed. The only last statement that I will leave for my Afghan sisters back in Afghanistan specifically, or the people who are abroad. The people who are abroad, please work on one or two skills of yours and the career that you desire to have that will make all of the Afghan women proud of it. I'm already proud of all my sisters. Like, to be honest, all women, specifically Afghan women, what we go through is the similar situation and experience, and I feel for every one of them. Besides that, the people or the girls who have lived in Afghanistan in the darkness, I always believe that no matter how much God puts you through the challenging time and suffering, at the end of the day, it is just a test. This result is going to be in our hand, and we can start all over again and again, and it will be a fresh start. So never give up. We all are here to raise our voice as much as we can do in our hand, but don't give up. I think you will lose when you give up. Till you have this desire to still want, no matter what age you become, no matter what environment you are in. If you have a dream of getting that one thing in your life, you will get it. If that's education, it will happen. It will happen. It will happen. I believe on hopes. I'm a believer. I always believe good things happens. Karma will come back to us. We have been hurt from day one, but we will heal too, and we will heal together.
I absolutely agree that having the hope and catching up is absolutely possible. For somebody with the determination, catching up from this blip is going to be no problem. And you're right, keep working on the things. I love all your advice. It's so perfect. And Sarina, I'm just so thrilled to have had you on and to have met you. And I hope we get to meet in person and I can give you a hug and just, I can't wait to see you in that next phase when there is a future and things can change. And just thank you so much for being here.
And I think we will cross our paths again in Afghanistan. We will work in Afghanistan in some projects, and then we will do it. And I believe we will do it
I would love that. That would be, I've still never gotten to go, and right now I definitely would not go, but I would love to see all the beauty of Afghanistan.
one day. Yes.
Okay, absolutely. Well, Tasha Kaur, everyone, thank you for listening and hope to see you again soon.